Episode 12, The Lies That Bind. That's actually really good. And it's your boy Icon, back with some DC TV and back with Superman and Lois, who took a 30-day break. Jesus Christ. I was a year younger the last time the show was out. So now we pick up where the episode last left, where Clark finally spilled the beans and told Lana the big secret that he was Superman. Just like everyone else, when they find out a super secret, the first question that they always ask, because Clark took off his glasses, and then Lana looks at him and she's like, how the hell has no one figured this out like after all this time? And and that was a question that they answered in Supergirl. When James and Kara were talking about Supergirl having a conversation with Cat Grant, the first thing that popped into Supergirl's head was she was like, well, I'm Cat Grant's assistant. She'll know that I'm Supergirl. And then James told her, no, he said, why do you think no one ever found out Clark is Superman? He's like, people see what they want to see. He said they can look Clark dead in the face. And because he's Clark Kent and he's supposed to be like some nerdy loser with glasses and everything and a sniveling reporter, he was like, your brain will never allow you to believe that he could be Superman. Therefore, you ignore the obvious that's right in front of your face. And that's what Lana did basically like their entire lives. Lana started breaking down their history because she was just like, oh, how long have you had powers? And he was like, since we were kids. And then she was like, oh, you were responsible for all that crazy shit that happened when we were growing up. And then like the car accident that we got into, she was like, you're the one who saved us and blah, 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 all this other stuff. And then she remembered that, then she went into like their romantic history because she did actually have feelings for him. And she said that, I told you that I loved you right before the car accident. And then after the car accident, like you left after that and I never saw you again. And then that's when he was just like, yeah, because after that, he said, my dad died and I had to figure out who I wanted to be. And my mom wouldn't let me use my power. So I got mad and I had to leave. And then she was just like, oh, but did you ever love me? And I was just like, don't do that. And then he was like, he's like, of course I loved you. But she was like, oh, but it wasn't enough for you to come back and get me. And he was like, first of all, woman, he's like, I did come back. He's like, I came back to get your raggedy ass. And when I came back, you had a wedding ring on your finger and you was with the next dude. So now. And then she says to him, she's like, oh, you should have told me. I'm like, tell you what? When I came back, you were engaged and had a wedding ring on your finger. What was I supposed to tell you? Because like she's implying that if he was like, oh, Lana, I came back for you and I love you, she would have took the ring off her finger, threw it in homeboy face and walked away. You basically just admitted that you never really loved your husband to begin with, if that was the case, and you just married him because you couldn't get the guy that you wanted. So, but now it's supposed to be his fault because he didn't say the words to break up her marital bliss. Like he saw she had a ring on her finger, so he fell back. I don't know what she wanted him to say. So then like she got mad, and then she was like, oh, you lied to me and our friendship's a lie. And then she got all mad, and then she went home. So now Clark goes back, he talks to his wife, talks to his kids, and then Lois comes up with the brilliant idea. Lois is just like, oh, don't worry, honey. She's like, I'll go talk to Lana for you and I'll make sure everything's okay. And then Lana ends up going, to the Kent house, and before Lois could talk to Lana, Lana showed up to talk to Lois. And then Lois was just like, oh, she was like, I'm sorry that everything that you had to find out this way and blah, blah, blah. And then she was just like, I know you're mad at Clark. And then Lana goes, I'm not mad at Clark. She was like, bitch, I'm mad at you. And I'm like, what? I'm like, she literally told Lois, she was just like, you're the one that I'm angry at. And I'm sitting here like, what? She's like, I don't blame Clark for lying to me about, I'm like, you just cursed him out on the side of the road for not telling you. Now all of a sudden that you've had time to process it, now she's like, oh, it wasn't Clark's fault. He was just a young man and he was confused and he didn't know what I was doing. He was doing, but she was like, oh, but when you first came to Smallville, you sought me out. You sought out my friendship. You wanted to be my friend and you were lying to me this whole time. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like, what? First of all, I remember season 1. Lana was the one who begged Lois to go out for drinks. Lois did not beg Lana for friendship. Lana was the one that was like, oh, I need a friend, I need a drink, and they were kicking back bottles of wine. Lois even said to him, she was like, first of all, it wasn't my secret to tell. And I don't care what happened at the end of the episode, that is 100% correct. Lois Lane is not Superman. Like, Superman is Superman. And even if you want to throw in the whole thing like, well, Lois and Clark are married, so as a married couple, it's a decision that they should make together, fine. But it's still not on Lois to reveal that information. And I just felt like that was a moment where, because Lana was mad at Clark and then realized she couldn't be mad at Clark. She just had to be mad at somebody, and then Lois just took it by default. So so then Lois was just, she was just like, oh, our friendship was based on a lie, and then Lois almost cried, and then Lana stormed out, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm starting not to like Lana. And back to the episode, Superman's trying to just like take down Allie, and he goes and he talks to Jonathan's doppelganger. That does nothing. And then after that, like, he ends up talking to John Henry Irons and talking to his his daddy-in-law, and then the general, along with John Henry Irons, they come up with the magic idea of destroying the pendant. They're just like, we have to destroy the pendant because they said that if you can superheat it with your heat vision and you can blow it up, then Allie won't be able to merge with anybody else from any other world. So then they're just like, okay, but Clark said he's not strong enough to be able to destroy the pendant on his own. And then, they're just like, yeah, but we have to find out a way. And they're just like, we need to find more power. Where can we get more power to help destroy the pendant? And then in this moment, I'm like, where the hell is Supergirl? Like, where is Supergirl? Like, you have Supergirl. You have a freaking Supergirl. And I'm sick and tired. Like, I love Superman and Lois. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, this is actually my #1 show besides Young Justice. I love Superman and Lois, but I swear to God, I'm tired of them ignoring the fact that Supergirl exists. So instead of them calling Supergirl, so Supergirl can help superheat, like the pendant, and she can blow the pendant up, Superman ends up going to his brother's prison and talks to Tal-Rho, who only wants family. And now that he has his brother back, Clark was just like, I need your help, brother. And then he was just like, oh, now you need my help. He was like, I want my brother. And then he was just like, I'll see what he said. If you help me, that'll be the first step, in mending all, like our brotherlyhood and, like all this other bullshit. But then Tal-Rho said he was smart enough to say, he was like, first of all, he said, I saved your life. And me saving your life wasn't enough to get you, to truly trust me and truly be with me. Because he was just like, brother, you're not the one I have to convince. And that was true, because what he meant was, it's not Clark that he has to convince to trust him. It's Lois. Because Lois is the one that hates his guts. And because Lois and Clark are married, as long as Lois hates Tal-Rho, Clark will never be able to embrace Tal-Rho without getting the side eye from his wife. So Clark ends up bringing Tal-Rho to the Kent house. Then Lois shows up and she's like, Clark, guess who Lana hates more than you right now? She's like, me? I can't believe she hates me. And then Clark was just like, yeah. He's like, honestly, babe, he's like, I don't care about that right now. He's just like, I need you to focus because we're still trying to destroy the pendant. Nobody cares about your petty friendship with Lana. But he was just like, I need you to talk to my brother. So then she looks at him and then she's just like, she's like, I'm not talking to this scumbag who kidnapped my son, tried to take over the entire planet, and rewrote my article for the Daily Planet. That was funny. And then he was just like, I told you she'd bring that up. Like, talk about Petty Murphy, right? So he was just like, and then that's when Tal-Rho did the, he was like, oh, I'm sorry, Lois. He's like, I only wanted family. And he's like, I promise I would never hurt you or your family again. He was like, I was jealous because I couldn't have my brother. And then, then the general and Iron showed up, and then they were just like, we can't trust him. And then Lois kind of got on top, not so much on Tal-Rho's side, but she was just like, okay, you do need both of them. So she was just like, look, she's like, I gotta go talk to Lana so I can smooth this shit over. He's like, the rest of y'all mother effers figure it out, because she's like, because she said, despite the fact that the world is coming to an end and we're under siege, I have feminine girl drama to deal with, which apparently takes precedence over the destruction of the planet. So the men, that they end up coming up with a plan, and then they take the pendant, they go down to like a steaming volcano, and then both Tal-Rho and Superman, they use their power together to try to destroy the pendant. As they're superheating the pendant, Allie magically appears out of nowhere, and she ends up using some power where she can absorb the energy from the Supermen, and then she started taking Tal-Rho's power. She started taking Clark's power. And then as she was absorbing their power, John Henry Irons showed up in the new steel suit, and then, he fought her off for a little bit. They ended up getting their hands on the pendant, and while John Henry Irons was getting his ass whooped by Allie, then Tal-Rho and Superman together, they both superheated the medallion, and they ended up blowing up the medallion, and they blew up the pendant, so now Allie can't merge with other people. But they foolishly allowed her to literally pick up the pieces, and when she picked up the pieces, she dipped and went back to her world. And then as soon as Superman turned around, Tal-Rho dipped, because he was like, I'm not going back to prison, brother. And then he took off, and Lord knows where he is right now. So now, like, I guess they're celebrating a job well done because the pendant's destroyed. And now back to the girl drama. So then Lois ends up going back to Lana's office, and then she's just like, I'm sorry. She was like, I was being selfish. And honestly, I truly don't believe Lois believed any of that shit. I just feel like she was just doing the job, and she was just trying to, like, she bit that, like, she took the L on that one. Like, Lois had to bite that, she had to take a piece of that humble pie just to get Lana back on their side, because they do need to warn her about everything that's going on. And that at that point, that's when Lois decided, she was like, I'm going to spill the beans. She said, I'm going to tell you everything, and then you can decide what to do with that information. And the first nugget is that Jordan actually has superpowers, and he's been dating your daughter this whole time. And Lana didn't look happy about that. So then speaking of the kids, Jonathan, Natalie, and Jordan, they were at school, and then Natalie convinced them to ditch school because Natalie has her new steel suit. They actually showed us the steel suit that she was working on, and I thought it looked good for a girl. It was very slim, it was very feminine fitting, and it looked like the perfect suit that her skinny behind would actually wear. But then she ends up saying, I'm gonna give the suit to Jonathan, and I'm like, Jonathan's not fitting in that suit. Like, that's not happening, and I don't know where she, but if she can let the suit out and form fit it to more of a to fit more of a masculine physique, this is a very interesting dynamic, because we're gonna have Superman, potentially a Superboy. We're gonna have Steel. We're gonna have Mini Steel or Steel Boy, and then I guess Natalie would serve as the Felicity. She'll be the one at the computer guiding them through everything. Interesting. That's an interesting concept and an interesting dynamic. But I'm not gonna lie, I would much rather see Natalie wear the steel suit than Jonathan. But that's just me. So then, they end up going down to the mines. They're searching for XK because they need XK in order to power the suit. They end up getting some XK. A cave-in happened because Jordan used his power to try to cut off a piece of XK. The XK caused the cave-in. Jordan, super sped everybody out of the room, and then they thought that was cool. They were all back at the house talking about how they were going to power the suit, and then John Henry came home. He was like, yo, we blew up the pendant, and they were like, yay. And then, then there was this whole big conversation, and then now they're trying to, like I said, now they're trying to celebrate a job well done, but the kids still have some plotting going on. And I'm okay with the kid storyline. I'm actually a fan of the three of them getting together and doing some misdeeds and some mischief. That's actually kind of cool. And I hope the three of them get together to do more stuff in the future. I mean, I guess at this point they'll probably bring Sarah in at some point if she ever finds out, which now brings us to Lana, because Lana, after having the conversation with Lois and Clark, she ends up going home, and with all the information that she had, she decided that she was actually going to tell her daughter. She was going to tell Sarah. But then at the last minute, she chose not to tell Sarah, because she knew that if she told Sarah, Sarah would then have to lie to her younger sister and lie to her dad. And Lana is a hypocrite, because she chose not to tell Sarah because she was just like, oh, it's, I don't want to burden her with telling the secret and telling the lies. And then I'm like, woman, that's why they didn't tell you. The reasons why you chose not to tell your daughter is the exact reason why Clark and Lois and Clark did not tell you. Lana's not on the good side right now. So then she decided not to tell him. But then, Lois and Clark went to the house, and they told her about her doppelganger that might be coming to whoop that behind. And then, and I mean, they should tell her, because, and then Lana had the right response. She was like, is Smallville in danger? And I'm like, woman, the world's in danger. To hell with Smallville. But that was the right question to ask. And she is the mayor, so she should know these things. And they're just like, when we find out more information, we'll tell you more information. But then that's when Lana was just like, oh, but until then, she was like, I don't think my family should hang out with your family, because I don't want my daughter to be a liar. And I'm just like, I hate this girl right now. Lana lost me, y'all. Lana lost me. And then, Lois look heartbroken because she ain't got nobody. And then, and to be honest with you, it was in that moment when Lois was talking about oh, I never had a girlfriend since my sister and blah, 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 and I miss female bonding and all this other stuff. What happened? What happened to the dynamic of Lois and Natalie? Last season ended with Natalie, coming to Earth, and then Lois seeing the child that she lost, or the child that her doppelganger birthed. And it was this whole thing with Lois supposed to be her mom, not mom. And she was like, oh, I want to get to know you. We saw none of that. After Lois and Natalie had that one conversation in the first episode of the season, the two of them never hung out again. I feel like someone in the writer's room forgot that the two of them were supposed to be hanging out together. And I need that to change because that was the whole point. The whole point of the dynamic was for the two of them to build a relationship, and they don't even speak. Like, she has a closer relationship with Superman, who killed her mama, than she actually has with Lois Lane. But hopefully that's something that they fix eventually, because I actually really want to see the dynamic between the two of them. And then finally, we are back on Bizarro World, like we're still calling it. And then Allie was just like, she was talking to Lana Rowe, and then she was just like, oh, what are you gonna do now that the pendant has been damaged? And then she was just like, I don't know, but I'll think of something. And then because she has this power now where she can absorb other power, she goes to because remember, Tal Rowe on Bizarro World betrayed Allie to go help Clark save his son, and they had him tied up in a prison. And then Allie went over to him and he was like, I want to speak to my wife. And then she was like, you'll never speak to anyone again. And then she stuck her hand out and absorbed all of his power and turned him into a corpse. And I don't know if we're gonna get Tal Rowe back in Bizarro World or even if it matters, but we're just gonna operate under the assumption that he's dead. And now that Allie has the power to absorb the power of supers, Lord knows what she's gonna do with that. But we will see as the episodes roll on, because we only got 3 episodes left of Superman and Lois, and she's basically coming for someone's power. So we'll see what happens and when all that unfolds. And thank you for tuning in. So share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below. What do you think of Lana? Am I crazy? Like, am I wrong? Like, am I wrong for how I feel about Lana Lane? And regarding the Cortez or the Cushion family, Sarah was playing in bars now. That turned out to be nothing. She's playing the guitar in bars now, and her dad thinks that his wife is sleeping with the next person. And then Lana also didn't mention the fact that she tried to give Clark the super draws when she thought he was Superman. When she thought he was just Superman, but that seemed to go over everyone's head. But yeah, share your questions and your comments and your concerns down below. Let me know what you think about what's going on with Superman and Lois. Check me out on Twitter and or Instagram. Hit the notification bell so you get notified when my other videos pop up. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already, because right now we are still doing The Flash, which comes back on June the 8th, and we have one more episode of Young Justice, where they better bring back my boy Nightwing, because if not, heads are gonna roll. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So till next week for some more Superman and Lois action, up and away as always. Until next time, I'm out this. Yeah!